Sammy, welcome and thank you for coming to another episode of the People We Know show. I'm Sammy Kwanzaa, and I'm here with my co-host, Daniel Kwanzaa.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
All right, and here we have two gentlemen who I'm gonna let introduce themselves, although they might not need too much of an introduction. Matt, do you want to go ahead first? Older and wiser.
What's up? I'm really happy to be a part of this, join this kind of podcast. This is amazing. For those that don't know me, my name is Matthew Dixon. Currently living in London, Ontario. Yeah, you heard me correctly, London, Ontario. And I got a family, married to my wife. It's about coming on to 8 years, Jennifer. And we have two beautiful children, boy and a girl, my boy Jaden and my girl Zara, after my favorite retail store.
He admitted it. He admitted it all.
You know, like I said, I whispered to her, it could have been Walmart, it could have been anything else, but she's lucky it's at least Zara. Yeah, so I think they call that like the $1 million family. I feel very fortunate and blessed. And moving provinces, it's all different for me. Born and raised in Quebec, moving over into the Ontario side, and the land of milk and honey. I'm just trying yours to discover. I'm discovering a whole lot. But in a nutshell, we'll keep talking, and that's basically what it is. I'm a branch manager right now in banking. So it's interesting during this COVID time, navigating, managing and kind of changing on a week-to-week basis the way we got to do things. So it stretches you as a leader, but it's interesting, and it's all it is what it is. I feel very blessed and fortunate.
All right, and next up we have Rudy. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am Rudy Williams. I guess my artist name go by Dorian Wills as well, to make it easy. Middle name, just something a bit different. I'm a father of two. I'm a father of two. Leo and Knox, wife, been with her for coming up on 4 years now. So it's good, a lot of fun. It's been about the last 3 years that really been diving deep into music, I should say. More as a full-time thing, more or less. COVID hurts, but we're making it through. It's good. Like Matthew, I still have a bit of a toe in the bank, so I'm working now, practically security, just making sure people don't do what they're not supposed to do. But it's good. Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'll just permit me, people might not know the connection between the four of us.
Yeah, I was about to test that. Go ahead. Yeah, go.
So I gotta say this before Sammy's allowed to. We're all brothers. And
absolutely.
Don't
forget, blood brothers.
My mother is a saint. My mother is a saint.
We all grew up together at what was called the Apostolic Church of Verdun, which is now VCC. And over the years, obviously, we're in different places now. But we all had a bond basically since our mothers were in the womb. And this has been over 30 years. Sammy and Matthew's case, a lot longer than that.
Watch yourself, Daniel.
And one of the reasons why we've tapped our brothers is because both of them are amazingly talented musicians. Singers to be specific, in songwriters, in Rudy's case, production as well. And we just wanted to pick your guys' brain on music and the Lord, because you're both awesome Christians as well, leaders in your respective places. And I just wanted to, and Sammy wanted to as well, get to know your story a little bit for people who don't know you guys. So I just feel free to say anything. The good stories, the tough stories, the funny stories especially, and just share with us a little bit about what it's like to be a Christian and a talented, gifted singer. So, Sammy, I'll let you kick it off with some questions.
Yeah, so then I guess starting at the beginning is always one of the easiest and best ways to start a story. So maybe we'll throw out, the first question I'll throw off to you guys is, what experiences do you remember in the church that influenced you to become singers and worship leaders in your own ways? Maybe we'll go with Rudy.
That's a good question, because to be honest, I didn't really want to do any of it for a long time. So I came into it a lot later. I was very sports heavy, and that's what I wanted to do. Learning later that wasn't for me. I was trying to force my own blessing on that one. But I guess my first memories would probably be the Christmas plays. The Christmas plays were wild. They were fun. And
gosh.
I was singing, and I didn't have a problem with it at that time, but I just remember it was fun. And I liked having my moment in the play. Even when I was doing the serious role, I would try to find that moment because I wanted to make people laugh. And that was my thing. So I'd like to mess up the play a little bit, not too much, respectfully. But I think those are my first moments of singing in the church and being like, okay, this is good. I like that.
Yeah, I do remember that you in that sailor outfit for that. Is that one where Matthew was the captain?
We don't gotta get specific.
Oh my God.
Oh, perfect. And what about you, Matthew?
Yeah, like it's crazy. Crazy. I grew up in a musical family. Everything was like we usually sang to each other at home. You know what I mean? If there was a birthday, we couldn't wait to harmonize on that. But as a kid growing up in church, I have very fond memories of like Sunday school, just singing those. I may never ride in the infantry song and doing the actions, running over. I'm telling you, man. I think those are the songs that kind of ran in your head over and over and over and over. But the first time when I realized that, okay, maybe I can sing, as being the youngest out of my siblings that could all sing, was when I remember Pastor Janet and Pastor John, we were doing their final send-off. They were moving to Peterborough, and so we were like planning a youth kind of special song tribute, and that was the first solo that I've ever was given to sing. And then I think I'll never forget it. We were practicing. It was a summertime. We were practicing at my house, and then I started it, and everybody looked at me like, "Oh, he could sing." You know what I mean? And I think that, me, it got into my head. I'm like, oh, there we go. And I think the love of first of all, I'll be quite honest, the love of people, I was always trying to get girls and whatever. The love of the girls being like, he could sing, changed my life. So it became my passion. No, but that's the first memory of my first solo. Started at, I think it was the new church, the new Verdun, not the old one, but that was my first kind of like solo by myself, I believe.
Yeah.
So, like anybody who's heard you sing, and if you haven't, there'll be some links to Rudy's work. And Matthew, I know there's different places where people could find to hear you sing. We'll hopefully try to link to that too. The thing is, even though you're naturally gifted, and I think God has blessed you guys with awesome voices, you still have to develop that somehow. So can you talk about, like, now we know there's some early memories, but how did you turn into the singers you were? Because we're going to get into kind of the places that singing has brought you, and both of you have traveled with singing. Rudy, you're a professional singer at this point. So how did you develop that gifting, that talent?
I guess, thinking about it, once I started singing, and I genuinely enjoyed listening to music. Like, that's the thing. Like, I would buy a lot of CDs. I grew up listening to my mom's records, you know what I mean? Those old school hymns versus the secular Michael Jackson. And, I enjoyed listening to music, melody, the beats. so developing became natural because I was constantly like obsessed with music. I would always have either a Discman, you know, back in the day, or I would have music in my ears. So you just start to pick up different things and you start to identify what you like. And then you want to be like that, right? You just want to sound like that. You want to make those same riffs. You want to have the same kind of tone. And so that would help me to kind of, you know, master kind of thing, the craft type of thing. And then it's just too that, not to sound braggy, but it's also too a gift that I believe that I know God has given me. So it's not something that I had to kind of work at, but to be excellent at it, I have to, you know what I mean? And I enjoyed it. And it's like, not to sound cliche, it became a passion and it will always be a passion.
Yeah. What about for you?
Yeah.
I think for me, starting singing wasn't something that I really thought of doing. It was, for some reason, always that thing I said, one day when I accomplish all the other stuff I want to accomplish, maybe I'll try it, type of thing. But, you know, growing up, a lot of Fred Hammond, a lot of Kirk Franklin, who always have like amazing singers. You know, even I think of Brian McKnight, you know, these crazy good singers. And there was something with like it's like in sports that I had that I would kind of bring to with music a bit. So it's like if I heard Brian McKnight do a run and I couldn't do it, I would sit with that same 30 seconds for an hour and do the run, just so if someone could ask me one day, Brian McKnight can do that run, I could be like, yeah, I could do it too. So it's okay. It's not a big deal. So that was my own, like, just trying to get it. So, and in a weird way, that's kind of what built, I guess, my vocabulary, I guess, in singing wise. Because even now is like, you know, doing it a lot more often, doing it professionally, I guess. I really see the value in the repetition and just sitting with that stuff that is almost seemingly boring, and you only have to really love it to do it. Is just sit with the same part and constantly just break it down. It's like anything else you learn. You got to break it down to the little details. I remember like skipping back to the track, going back 15 seconds, going back 15 seconds, trying to learn it. Okay, you went up here. Okay, I'll try to go down. All this little meticulous stuff that I was just enjoying myself doing chores through, just getting through my chores doing them, that paid off dividends because it's grown my language and music. So now doing it professional, when I decided that's what I wanted to do, I already had this stuff that I built kind of just through a passion of loving music, not intentionally, but has allowed me to be able to do it professionally as if I practice intentionally, just because the repetition I would do often. So,
yeah, actually, going off of what you're saying, I know you, actually, and both of you have tried to find your own voice in music. And this is something I've talked about with you guys in the sense of like, there are so many different genres and you guys are so gifted in the way you can, and you guys have listened to so much music and you're so gifted in hearing a style and being able to adapt to it, but then being able to find your style, your voice. I think you both have done that, but you both have different journeys and ways that you've done that. So since you were sort of on that topic, Rudy, how did you find your voice? How did you get to the point where you're like, this is the way I want to sing. This is the style I want to sing.
I would say I'm still I'm still constantly working and retwerking. I'm working it out. That's what I'm saying. We're working it out. I'm like,
yo, who decided?
I don't understand what word I was trying to come up with here. All I'm trying to say is I'm constantly developing my own skills.
Yeah.
We're not twerking anywhere. But
it's a Christian podcast, Rudy.
No, I don't even know. Retweaking. That's the word I wanted to say. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your patience. Well, I'm constantly tweaking and kind of finding it. Because I think my own particular challenge is that I'm coming up at a time where there's a lot of opportunity, and you know, I'm doing live music primarily, and that's how we're paying the bills and getting to do a part of our passion. But still moving, I'm still in this kind of growing and transition area, trying to figure out how to have my own music be more the forefront, where it's almost a smaller piece of it. I'm trying to get that to be a bigger pie. Just as that's the thing that feels the greatest. I'm at the point where, like, my passion and my love for music, I just want to be in and around it. You know, if that's all God permits me, I'll take it. You know, I'm that much in love with it. But, you know, just working hard and wanting the best and always looking to have a goal. My own music is something I'm constantly retweaking and re-looking at and trying to figure out how to better connect with people. I haven't had a mentor in terms of someone who's gone before me and do the things I'm trying to do in terms of making your own music, producing it, writing it, not necessarily having to do all the steps, but the idea of creating music as a Christian, but not creating music that necessarily is Christian. So my music is inspired by my Christianity first. So there's nothing that I wouldn't say in my regular life that I'm not saying in my music. And my music, I'm talking about relationship, talking about love, which isn't just from a point of view as someone who happens to be Christian. What makes it tough is that it's a grayer space where it's trying to figure out how to connect with people in a way that they understand. And you're not coming from a place of, well, I know how to do this thing the best because I have God, so I know how to do a relationship or treat my wife the best. But coming from a place where people can relate to struggle, people can relate to things you go through, but in a way showing my eyes of how I do it as a Christian guy, how my thoughts process is more from the, even, you know, sometimes I even think about, you know, we go through the same things, but the difference may be because I'm Christian and I'm trying to be Christ-like, I try to have my music be informed of, I fall into the same pitfalls, but how am I going to move forward? Or how am I going to solve the problem if I'm thinking about a song that's maybe a bit more of a sadder song, I guess. So that's always what I'm looking for when I'm trying to write music. And I think that's my choice, I guess, of doing music inspired by my Christian and not necessarily Christian, is that through my own life and my experiences, I've always found that I have a heart for people who are searching, who are not necessarily there yet. And like, even through, I find through sports, it's touched me the most, where it's like, I've had the opportunity to make friends with people who I would probably never make friends with, don't come from the same economic backgrounds as me, definitely didn't have good influence in their lives, or definitely are not Christian. But when you get to know these people and you get to how good some of these people's hearts are, but they make bad decisions, I've always had this soft spot for how could I get to people who are not necessarily going to pick up a Christian album or not going to necessarily say, I'm going to listen to this Christian guy because he's Christian. So I try to live my life where how can I be an example so much that it makes people want to ask, like, oh, what is he doing that might be different? Or I'm curious about why he seems a little bit not like everybody else. So I don't know if I've arrived. I don't know if I'm there. And I know it's always a constant journey, but that's, I guess, if anything, I'm going for trying to spark something different to open conversations. And at the same token, I would add, I don't necessarily think that the music I'm going to create is going to, like, someone's going to listen to it and all of a sudden it's going to change their hearts and their minds and they're going to get on their knees for Christ because they heard a love song by me. But what I've realized with music and doing a lot of live shows, you know, regardless of what you're doing, there's something about the power that God has given music, which it almost seems it shouldn't have that power. That just because when you connect with people, you look in their eyes and you're singing a song, there's something that it moves people's moods. It makes people feel good. It makes people feel happy. It makes people want to connect deeper. So I've had people come up to me after shows and have these conversations about nothing that has to do with what I did on stage, but because I connected with them through music, they want to dive deeper in a type of relationship and just talking to me. So I'm viewing music as a vehicle to somehow be able to reach people, bring me into places that I wouldn't have the opportunity to be in if I couldn't sing or if I couldn't write music. And that's kind of how I've figured out this is what I want to do, more than just saying I'm going to do Christian music, which there's nothing wrong, obviously, with doing that. And there's, just for me personally, I feel like I want to get into spaces where I can kind of shed light where maybe people weren't thinking like that before.
See,
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going on a tangent probably.
no.
Golly.
That was actually no, it was actually perfect because I wanted to that was a question we had for you is making first of all asking you about your writing and your writing process as a Christian writing, you know, music about romance and sorrow, not necessarily just Christian music, but you're touching on something on how it connects with people. And Matthew, I actually wanted to ask you about that because I mean, both of you were in a professional gospel choir, Gyro Gospel Choir, and Matthew, you were with them for a long time. You performed, you traveled with them, soloed with them, and you wrote music for them. So I guess from the other side of the coin is like, what is it like to write a gospel song or a worship song, and then you're performing in crowds, yes, that had a lot of Christians, but that had non-Christians also, like when you performed at the Jazz Fest. So could you, I guess, speak a little bit about like writing a song for God and then performing it for people?
Yeah, so like before all of the singing came about, back in high school, I thought I wanted to be a rapper, which I still do to this day. So a lot of, we would do a lot of like that's how I started kind of writing freestyles, you know what I mean? And it even sounds weird writing freestyles, but like writing down like songs and then freestyling with my friends. So in terms of my style and the way that I engage, it became, rap is very in your face. So it became very much like engaging, right? So when I sing, I like to engage, you know what I mean? I'm not just a concert singer that will sit in the spot. I engage, I look at you, I move from side to side. And being a part of a gospel choir, that allowed me to connect with everybody, because I feel like, music is one area that no matter where you are, whether you're Christian, whether you're not, whether you're sad or happy, we can all become on one page once, you know what I mean, the music hits you. So that was cool to see, like in areas where, and I appreciated that when I was with Gyra, our mandate was, we didn't want to sing to church people. We wanted to sing where gospel wouldn't be, you know what I mean? You're not expected to come and hear gospel or about Jesus, whether it be in a bar or whether we open for like at the Bell Center. But what happened was, the way my style is, engagement and through rap and being confident, I was able to engage with people and sing and be close and bring them in and make them feel like they're singing the songs. They don't even realize what they're singing, that there's power and actual real power in what they're singing. And they're singing Jesus's name. And that was one of the things. We weren't going to sugarcoat it. We weren't going to say, oh, like blanket it. We were singing like, his name is Jesus. He'll wipe your tears away,
Yeah.
And those are the songs that I would solo on and be looking and people be waving their hands. I'd get people into it. But we're actually lifting up, and it was actually like I was rapping or speaking it or spoken to it, and that's the way I can kind of appreciate the way that I came about music through rap, and be able to learn how to engage in that way and not have the fear to go up and walk around the stage and just be that way. So I hope I'm answering the question.
Oh
no, definitely,
in a sense, but.
And what I can sincerely say, knowing you for the amount of years I do and seeing you go through the process, is you're you when you're on there. That's the thing that you always try to bring, is that engagement. And what I'm really cool that I'm finding as I'm listening to both of you is seeing a heart that a real singer that I feel is singing for God, for Christ, that their main goal is to engage people with that heart of Christ. And I think that you guys, just from hearing you talking to even, and that's what's like, I'm almost going to get emotional here just hearing you guys talk like that, because I'm like I've talked to you guys for years, but having this in-depth conversation about this music in your hearts and just seeing like what God does in like people's in people who take their gift and use it, that there is still a unity, even though you two have done it through different venues, there's still something that God says, hey, my stamp is on it, and it is that engagement. And so where I want to take this next question is, in that engagement, because you guys are in something where you're performing, where you're talking, and we've talked about this in the past, Matthew, so I'll throw it to you, and then Rudy, you can answer as well, is do you find there a challenge in making sure that the engagement stays, I guess, authentic? Because I know you can fall into a trap of becoming an entertainer versus being a worshiper or a person who's trying to engage for God, and the balance between keeping the crowd into it and delivering that heart and that message that you have and that authenticity can be difficult. And how do you is that something you've encountered? How have you dealt with it? Is it something you think about on the regular?
Yeah, I think you have to think about it. But I always have that mandate that that's the gift God's given me. That's the energy God's given me. So if I'm going to be in my mind and be like, I'm not going to give that because I don't want to perform or whatnot, then I'm selling God short. And I feel I always have it's weird. I always have a whisper in my ears that's like, you know what I mean? And I chose, whatever I want to do, I want to do it for Christ. I want to do it for God. I want to do it for the glory of Jesus's name. So if I'm not engaging, so there's an aspect, I'm not going to lie, there's an aspect of performance, but I think the performance, because at the same time, a lot of people, I hear people are like, oh, I just lose myself. At the same time, you want to, especially there's two different realms. There's the concert realm where people are paying to come and listen to gospel music, right? That are not necessarily just like the genre of gospel music. So they're coming to see a show. So you have to put on a show, but the show is not like, oh, look at me, I'm super Christian. The show is giving them excellent music, but in my mind, the entertainment factor is there, but then it's I want to get through to the message of what I am singing. And I want that to hit you. So that is like sort of what God is always whispering in my ear, that if I don't make sure to engage, I don't make sure to, boast about him in that way, in that in your face way. And that's not for everybody. That's just me. Then I'm not being authentic, because that's the way that he's created me to be and the way that my message is supposed to be delivered. And then there's the aspect realms of worship leading, right? And I would say the same, right? There is still an area where you have to be, you're a leader, right? So you have to be engaged as well to make sure that whatever is happening is first of all, that you're not just worshiping on your own, you know what I mean? And that you're able to engage with people. So there's an excellent performance there, but it's different because now you're engaging with like minds, that, we're all lifting up the name of Christ in that aspect. But there's still that trying to be excellent, trying to put together songs and prepare. And then there's a point where you have to let go and you have to then, worship authentic, and God will deal with the rest. But there's always that little, I always keep it in mind. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to be like, oh no, I worship. Like, no, there's that different aspect. There's definitely you go into preparing and so on and so forth. You go into being, when you're leading worship, you want to make sure that, you're leading and you're engaging and you're you know what I mean? That whatever your songs or whatever is kind of getting through. But then there's also the aspect of, okay, you lose yourself within that. And then on stage, it's a different mindset, but it's the same kind of thing, balance.
Yeah. And Rudy too, I do think you touched on it a bit, but when you were talking about, your style of music and how you got to where you're at, but I know that that is part of the process is finding your authenticity. And I know you said you're still tweaking it, twerking it, but tweaking it. No, it's good. We all do it. We make up words. How do you feel you do that? Do you find that challenge? Because you also perform in many different areas
I would say for a long time I had an issue with this because as much as like I started off with Matthew and Jaira, where it's one thing when you within your group of people, and like what Matthew said, when people are coming to see a show, for me it was easy to rationalize smiling, looking like you enjoy it, because your people are either paid or they're at the very least they're coming with their time to enjoy the show, and that's what you're there to do. What I always had a struggle with on Sunday morning, where like, because naturally I'm a boring worshiper. I'm not aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. If I want to, because I have a thing to me where I like my alone time. I'm a bit introvert in some aspects, and then I could be the extreme extrovert in other aspects. And I find when I'm on stage and I know people pay for music and they're coming to a good show, I'm super extrovert me. But then I had a problem when I started to do worship, because I'm like, well, I don't want to give them a slightly inauthentic version performance-wise. But I to be honest, it's been more recently where I rationalized and I got over the hump of there has to be an aspect of performance. Because in one sense, I'm doing a bit of a disservice because you're leading people. You know, even if you think to a pastor who's coming with a message, he could say all the same words, but if he has terrible inflection, if he sounds like he doesn't want to be there, he might as well not be there. So it's not fair to say that just good music is going to have the same effect of when you have good music, looking like you want to be there, looking like you are worshiping. But there's something with that when you get into that, God meets you there. And then he kind of takes you and you can build off it. But for me personally, it was a struggle just because of the intro person I am sometimes. I really wanted to make sure I wasn't faking it on stage and lifting my hands. And I think for me as well, it comes from having this history of hearing people talk about how they can see the worshipers in church. They can see they're lifting their heads up to the sky, but they're just reading the words off the top of the prompter in the back of the church, which lets them look like they're worshiping more. So I always felt aware, like I didn't want to be this typical, these new age worshipers that are just looking to give you a good show. But I think in some aspects I just took it too far. So I've found my balance of make sure I'm leading people into worship, and then I'm not a stumbling block. But I don't have to think either that I need to be that extreme person I need to be when someone's paying to see a show at the same time. So it's a balance, but I mean, it's very doable. And again, God's good, and God meets you there anyways, and that's part of the journey.
But you guys are doing a good job of kind of pulling back the curtain, because, like in my case, I wish I was a great singer. You guys have all heard me sing. It's not there. I could hold a rhythm on the drums for a little bit, but singing is not my thing. Although I wish it was. So like, this is
Daniel, for only $9.99.
I would empty my pockets. I'd empty my pockets. But people wonder about this because, like, on the one hand, you have this talent, you have this gifting, but you are leading people, and you want to make sure that they're able to enter into worship. The thing I want to ask you is actually a little bit even more intimate. Is for you guys, what's your preferred way to worship? I know, like, right now we're in the middle of this pandemic, and churches are closed to meeting together physically. I know a lot of churches are doing online or videos or whatever it may be. But for you guys, I'm just wondering, like, with all that immense talent, what actually is your best form of worship? Is it alone? Is it a worship service at church? Is it performing in a concert? Like, where do you have your best worship to God?
For me, always, being like as a worship leader for many, many, many years, I was always in front, right? You're always facing the crowd, right? So for me personally, my favorite moments and where I can be myself, whatever you see is, I do it in my own home, in my own basement, in my own room, is by myself. Mm-hmm. by myself where it's just, you know, me and God, you know what I mean? And where he, you know, I'm not facing anybody, you know what I mean? And where I could just pour my heart out. And it's crazy that sometimes, you know what I mean? I always worry that somebody's going to walk in. It looks crazy because I do run, I do jump, I do, you know what I mean? I try to conceal myself, but I'm not thinking that people are kind of watching me, but God, except my family may walk in on one of those sessions, but in the car, you know what I mean? Like, by myself, you know, it probably is, you know, it's where I have my sweetest moments, but I've had some really sweet and awesome moments corporately where I know where they say, you know, where 2 or 3 are gathered, like God's there, like you could feel it. You feel God's presence, and you just, you know, it's almost like you're in a heavenly place where you're just worshiping. But I would say there's, you know, it's very close, but by myself, I love that place where I am, and I can just let go, and it's just me and God. I can do whatever I want, and there's no like thinking about anybody.
So Matthew, thank you so much for the candor in your answer. You know, I think a lot of people just see your personality. Those of you who've been able to worship with you when you're leading worship, and it's truly awesome. But I think you're really hitting on something there about being able to worship one-on-one with God. And Rudy, I'm just wondering, I know before you said that in certain ways you're a bit of an extrovert, or introvert, I should say. So is it similar to Matthew, where you like to worship alone for your best form of worship, or maybe it's the opposite? So can you just talk a little bit about what worship you prefer?
For sure, it would be most similar to Matthew. I feel like there's certain moments I can think to of where like I felt God really met me in church, let's say during worship, and where I felt like a bit of a eureka kind of moment. But in terms of like the upkeep of my relationship with God, that happens best when I'm alone. That's 100%. You know, whether it's listening to music, but to be honest, I found that my relationship grows more. The more I do it consistently, the more I grow, the more the growth I see in terms of my daily life and kind of move forward with God. So I try to take to my Bible every morning. And you know what, to be honest, there's some mornings I'm reading, I said, God, I wasn't there. I read the words. But I found in just at least showing up, I have an opportunity to have a closer relation with God, a closer worship with God daily. But definitely music was a catalyst. Was a catalyst to how to meet God in those particular ways. So yeah, I'll say that.
You know, what's funny is Sammy and I, we had a million questions for you guys, and we wanted to kind of link to what was going on with the pandemic. And I think you guys just both actually gave a really eloquent answer to people for what they can kind of do now. And I know we all miss corporate worship. I've heard pastors say one of the things they're looking forward to the most when they get back to church is worship. But worshiping alone and having that one-on-one time with God is so vital. It's so important. And you guys have taught me. I know you chastised me, jokingly, that I'm not the greatest singer. Actually, I chastise myself. But I could sing alone. I could read my Bible alone. I could dedicate that time to God alone. And I think everybody listening could do the same, is that, you know, worship is awesome together, but you can worship on your own. And we could take this time of, you know, isolation to kind of tap into what you guys are talking about, having those great moments alone to worship, and then, you know, bring that confidence, bring that connection to the corporate when we get back to it. And then we're going to have a real fantastic time worshiping God, and that glorious sound that we're going to make for him is going to be awesome. So guys, thank you so much for that. And I'm just excited to, hopefully for myself, really put that into practice.
Yeah. And I think this is what you guys have said has definitely touched me, challenged me, encouraged me. And I think this right now is a perfect place to sort of end this recording for now. just because I think there's a lot to already ponder. But on that, I hope you guys will come back for a part 2, or maybe a part two of many, so that we can, because we had so much that we wanted to touch. Oh, for sure. Mostly because I want more gifts for your godson. But yeah, I think that we touched on a lot, but I think we had so much more things that we want to touch on. It'd be great to have you two back. Before we head out, I'd like to throw to you guys, maybe just take a second to mention any things that you guys are working on, or things that you've done in the past that you'd like people to know about. So we'll go to you, Matthew, first.
Do you want to sing? Have you ever tried to sing for only $9.99? $9.99. You can call me up on Zoom and we can teach you. No, that was my weak attempt at an infomercial. Yeah. No, for real, which is good. I think this time created a nice pause. But I'm so grateful that I'm still able to lead worship, and we do pre-recordings. That's kind of fresh, so we'll do 2 weeks in advance where we'll just go in and pre-record at my church. So I can send you the link if you ever wanted to see that and worship with us too. I think it's cool. Everybody has the capabilities to kind of log in on other people's, worship services, well, not necessarily on Sunday mornings, but throughout the week. So it's a great way for all of us kind of to connect to that universal kind of church. So that's right now, the priority is still leading worship, doing pre-recording. So I'll send down the link for that if you guys want to see. Yeah. And just being a father and a husband and getting through these times. That's it. And $9.99. Sign up for my courses. And then there's more. I'll teach you how to rap as well. You know what I mean?
Sundays. Perfect. And Rudy, how about you?
My artist name, I go by Dorian Wills. So Dorian Wills on Instagram. Dorian Wills on wherever you're listening to your streaming your music. That's Dorian Wills, Wills. Dorian's my middle name. Rudy seemed a bit not cool, so
too rude.
I'm just gonna interject before we end, because Rudy, you have some terrific music out.
Yes,
really.
Yeah, for sure.
On my Instagram, there's a video of my infant son, bumping to it. So you're kind of underselling. You should really check it out. It's great music.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I was definitely on every weekly download when he was releasing the music. Yeah. And looking forward to some new stuff too. And don't forget, I've seen you post some stuff on Instagram that was really both fun and engaging. So thank you for that. And for now, we're just going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, listening, and watching from wherever you are. We send our love and our prayer and a blessing out to all of you. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. We can cut this out later. You can find.
You gotta leave.
I know.
Not yet.
As a Sammy break fall apart.
Hey, Sammy, if you'd like, I can help you out.
No, it's cool. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You can find all of our social media and links to everything that both they're doing and we're doing in the description. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment, both of encouragement or questions if you have. We're glad to know that we're all still connecting during this time. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening or day.
Take care. Thanks for having us.
Peace.